Hello and Assalamualaikum everyone. Good day. Welcome to Research Method on Knowledge Management. In this session, we'll be discussing on topic 1, which is focusing on overview of research on knowledge management. Here is the list of topics that we will be discussing in this chapter. Okay, the first one, definition of research. Research can be defined as the process of finding solutions to a problem after a thorough study and analysis of situational factors. In this definition, there are several terms that require elaboration. The first one is process. When we talk about process, it involves several activities. These activities will be like problem definition, developing research questions, developing research objective, doing literature review, developing theoretical framework, conceptual framework, collecting data, analyzing the data, interpreting the results of the data analysis. So these are some of the processes that involve in research. And in this definition also, you can see the word thorough. When we talk about thorough, means it has to be all embracing. We cannot miss or skip any of the activity, because if you miss any of the activity, it will affect the final outcome or the final results of the research. And you can also see the word analysis, meaning to say when it comes to doing research, we cannot run away from doing analysis. So it will involve data collection in the form like using questionnaire, survey questionnaire, or probably you'll be doing interview, observation, or doing focus group. Basically, you will be collecting the data, and these data need to be analyzed using appropriate analysis tool or technique. For example, if you are collecting data and the data appear in the form of numbers, like you normally use in survey research using questionnaire, so all the responses are in the form of numbers, so you may need to use statistical analysis to analyze the data. But if you interview participants or informant, so what you will be getting will be words and sentences. So these are also data and need to be analyzed. But the way we analyze such data is different the way we analyze numbers. Okay, we may not be using any statistical tool for analyzing such data. Okay, of the situational factors, that means of the phenomenon. So we study a phenomenon, and then we collect data from the context of the phenomenon. We will analyze the data. Okay, so that problem exists in a context. So this is the definition of research. A very comprehensive activities that will be involved. But it will start from a problem, meaning to say the problem will actually spark the need to conduct the research, and then after that there will be a lot of activities involved. Finally, you will either get a total solution to the problem, or if not complete solution, at least part of the problem is solved through the conduct of the research. Of course, there are many other definitions if you look at other textbooks on research method, but the essence of this definition is basically the same. That is, you can see the word process, and then you can see the word thorough, study, analysis. All right. Okay, now having understood what is meant by research, let's look at the purpose of research. Why do we embark on a research? Why researcher conduct research? Okay, now there are two purpose. Generally there are two research that a researcher may embark upon. The first one is called applied research. Now, this type of research is normally done when we want to solve a current problem. Okay, so the outcome of the research, the outcome of the study, basically the findings will be implemented right away. For example, in an organization, you see the employee are not performing. In other words, their productivity is not increasing, is not improving. So you may want to find out what are the reasons that cause them uh, not to be improving in their productivity. So you may engage a researcher, and this researcher will conduct an applied research, get the findings, and the findings will be implemented right away so as to improve the current situation. So such study is called applied research. So applied research is meant to be applied. The findings is meant to be implemented right away. So in contrast, researcher also engage in a type of study which is called basic research. This basic research is also called fundamental research. Now, basic research or fundamental research is not so much towards implementing the outcome or the findings right away, but the main purpose, the main reason is to generate a body of knowledge, okay, to improve the current situation. And this basic research can be further divided into three types of research. The first one is called exploratory, number two is called descriptive, and the third one explanatory. So a researcher can engage in an applied research or a basic research, and this basic research can be further divided into that three. So what is meant by exploratory research? Now, exploratory research is normally undertaken when you have got limited knowledge about certain phenomenon. In other words, not much has been recorded about the situation, about the phenomenon. Because of the limited information you have about certain situations, so you may want to explore further. So sometimes this exploratory study is also called preliminary study. So the main focus of exploratory study is to dig further about the current situation so that it can improve our understandings. Okay, so in exploratory study, normally that particular phenomenon is not well researched, so not many literature discussing about the phenomenon, and there isn't any theory or any framework or any model uh, can 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 truly reflect the current phenomenon. So because of that, researcher embark on exploratory study. Now, another type of study is called descriptive study. So this type of study is undertaken where you want to explain, describe the current situation or the phenomenon. So you have certain area that you want to focus on, which is called aspect of the situation, which is also called variables. So you focus on these variables and you want to describe the situation. So in quantitative study, which we will discuss after this, normally you will be using descriptive statistics to describe the phenomenon. Okay, so the goal of descriptive study is to provide description about the current situation. Okay, right. The third study is called explanatory research. Now, explanatory research normally looks into relationship between variables, between aspect of interest. Okay, this relationship can also appear in the form of cause and effect. But normally in social science research or management research, like in our field, we will not be looking into cause and effect. The focus, the concern will be looking into association or relationship, meaning to say what will happen to one variable when this variable changes in terms of its value. So later on we will discuss about what we call independent variables, dependent variables. Okay, so what will happen to the dependent variables when there is a change in value on the independent variables? What will happen to the dependent variable when there is a change of value in the independent variable? All right, so normally this exploratory research is uh, is uh, you develop a theoretical framework together with hypothesis. So you will test the hypothesis. Okay, that is very normal, especially when you are doing quantitative research. All right. So at this point, you have already understood the definition of research and the purpose of doing research. The purpose is being driven by the type of research that we have discussed. The first one is what we call applied research. Number two is called the basic research, and this basic research can be divided into three. Namely, the first one is called exploratory research, number two descriptive research, and number three will be explanatory research. So having understood all these definition and also the purpose of doing research, now what I want you to do is that, so I want you to search two research reports. So this research report can appear in the form of journal article or conference article or even a thesis, okay, on any topic on knowledge management. So make sure each represents a different type of research. One is called quantitative research, one is called qualitative research. If you don't understand what's the meaning of quantitative research, qualitative research, I will discuss that term just after this slide. And then try to read, you have to read the articles of course, and then try to determine the type of research that the researcher had reported in the article, whether it is applied research or whether it is a basic research, and also determine whether the study is exploratory or descriptive or explanatory. All right, so in our meeting face to face via Google Meet later, I want you to present the two articles and also the answers that you have prepared. All right, the next content will be the importance of research. Okay, why do we embark on research? We already discussed. Okay, we want to solve problems. Okay, there are issues and problems happening in the organization, okay, or in a certain context. So these issues or problems need to be solved. So human being face problem, same goes to animals. Okay, so through research we will get findings or results which can help to partly or probably to completely solve the issues problem faced not only by human but also animal. Of course the animal will not do the research. Okay, the human beings, we as a researcher, we embark on the research which will help to solve some of the problems, okay, faced by animals. Okay, all right, now research also is expected to contribute significantly to the body of knowledge. So through research we will develop new laws. Okay, we will be updating laws, we will be developing new theory, we will be revising existing theory or model or framework. Okay, I'm sure you have learned management subject and you have come across human needs theory, okay, by Maslow. You know that pyramid shape, you have got that 5 layer different needs. Okay, these needs may be differ when it comes to this time and age. Okay, for example, in this time and age, okay, it is quite common for almost everyone to use handphone, mobile phone. So this has become a very basic necessity. But if you look at that pyramid, you cannot fit this handphone to any of these element or any layer of the theory. So you may need to update that theory through research. Same goes to model and frameworks. There are so many models that we have learned, you know, in different subjects, in different courses. Some of this model may need to be updated. Okay, because as you know, as time passes, there are a lot of changes that are taking place. So some of the elements of the model as well as the framework may no longer be applicable, may no longer be suitable to the context and also the time. So it will require some modification. So these changes will be done or achieved through the conduct of study or research. So the findings of the study will normally update the model or the framework. That's why it's quite common in social science research as well as management research, like in our field, information science, information management, knowledge management, or even information systems. We will be developing what we call theoretical framework. Okay, so this theoretical framework is being developed based on existing theories, model. Okay, and then we will collect data, we will analyze the data, and from there we will either support or refute the hypothesis, because when we develop the framework, it will come together with hypothesis. This is for quantitative research. Now, through research also, we'll be developing new methods. Okay, later on in our subsequent chapter, we will be discussing a different types of method in research. For example, we have got survey method, ethnography method, we have got grounded theory method, we have got case study method. These are different types of method for doing research, and research also can come up with a new method of doing research. So not necessarily we adopt existing method advocated by methodologists in many research method textbook. We as a researcher can also develop new method. And of course, when it comes to techniques, okay, we have got statistical techniques, we have got data collection techniques. Okay, we can also develop new techniques through research. We can improve existing tools, software, hardware, or even equipments. Okay, the tools, the hardware, the software, the gadget that you are using now in our day-to-day work, day-to-day life, are actually the results of research. And this tool, this equipment sometimes become irrelevant as time passes. For example, we are so used to using typewriter. I know some of you may not be, may not, you may have not seen what is typewriter, but during my time I used typewriter. I learned how to use typewriter, but now typewriter is no longer being used. Okay, people are using laptop computers, okay, desktop computers, and now smartphone has become more advanced, more sophisticated. Many of the tasks that we normally use many of the tasks that we normally use computers or desktop are now being replaced by our smartphones. All right, now through research also, it can inform us on how to improve current practice. Okay, the way we do things, standard operating procedure. Okay, the existing procedure may no longer become efficient, may no longer become effective because of the changes in the environment, changes in the infrastructure, changes in terms of the user's ability, competencies. Okay, because of this changes that taking place, so the practice also need to be changed. So how are we going to change the practice? It is through research. So we embark on the research. Okay, we try to identify how we can improve the current practice, and research also is meant to enhance our well-being, our health status, our social status, our economic well-being, political well-being. Many aspects of human life can be improved greatly through research, through the findings of research. Okay, even in an organizational context, business enterprises, they need to have one unit called business development or R&D unit, research and development unit. So the research has to be ongoing. Okay, if they continue maintaining the old product or services, people will gradually switch to another product or services. So they have to keep on improving in terms of their quality. Okay, in terms of their product quality, service quality. This is done through research. This is the importance why we need to do research. That's why we in academic, we have to learn or how to do scientific research. All right, now research has to be rigor. Okay, it has to be very thorough, very rigor, very comprehensive. Okay, so in order for us to understand what is meant by rigor in research, we have to understand this different approach to doing research. Okay, in social science and management, generally there are two approaches to doing research. Number one is called quantitative research, and the other one is called qualitative research. Now, for quantitative research, normally you will collect data in the form of numbers. Okay, and these data will be analyzed using statistical analysis. Okay, statistical tools, statistical technique. Okay, in contrast, we have another type of research which is called qualitative research. Okay, now qualitative research do not actually collect data in the form of numbers. Okay, so it collect data, qualitative data which appear in the form of words, sentences, responses. When you interview people, people will give the responses, so the responses appear in sentences, in words, right? So these are also data, and these data need to be analyzed, and these data we have to analyze using certain techniques, okay, such as content analysis or thematic analysis, okay, in order to find the meanings. All right, so this is called qualitative research. Okay, so quantitative research use statistic, qualitative research do not use statistic. So this is the general classification of two research approaches. Okay, we will be discussing at length later on when we will reach in chapter 3. All right, so quantitative research, okay, normally you will have hypothesis. Okay, research hypothesis. So you collect data. When you have enough responses, you will analyze the data using statistical techniques, and then you will test the hypothesis. So the results will help to either support or reject the hypothesis. But in qualitative research, normally you will not develop the hypothesis in the initial stage. Certain qualitative research will end up developing hypothesis. Okay, right, now this is another explanation about qualitative and quantitative research. So quantitative research deals with numbers, statistics. Qualitative research deals with words and meanings. Okay, so allow us to have in-depth experience, understandings about certain phenomena. Okay, now how do you address rigor in quantitative research? Now, in quantitative research, we address rigor by being specific, narrow, specific, concise, and objective in the design and analysis technique. So in quantitative research for social science research and management, we'll be using a method such as survey. So survey normally will use questionnaire as a data collection technique. Okay, so you have to develop the questionnaire thoroughly. It has to undergo what we call the pre-test, and then the pilot test, and then you have to make sure that you address validity, reliability. All right, so this is how you actually making sure that the design of the research is very comprehensive. Okay, and then you have to really follow all the steps in sequence. You cannot miss the pre-test, for example, or even the pilot test, because that will affect the final results. So if you really follow the prescription steps in doing the research, then you will end up fulfilling or addressing the rigor in quantitative research. Now, in contrast, for qualitative research, now we don't actually skew ourselves into a very specific or narrow as in quantitative research, but we try to be very open with the data that we collect, and then using our certain philosophical view or perspective, we will try to understand meaning in the data. Okay, we try to be very open, try not to have some bias. Of course, that has to be avoided. That means the influence by researcher must be reduced as minimum as possible, and try to understand the data, the meaning from the data, and how theory will emerge from the data. All right, so this is the way we address rigor in qualitative research. Okay, there are certain elements, okay, which can be used as the yardstick or indicators for measuring rigor, both in quantitative and also qualitative. Now, for quantitative, we have got this four element. The first one is called validity, number two, reliability, the third one is generalizability, and the fourth one is called objectivity. Okay, sorry, I had skipped that fourth point, but I have it in another slide. So validity means we have to make sure that the data is really very accurate. Okay, here we have in this slide, we have a more complete definition for each of the aspect. Okay, validity, we have to make sure that the method, the technique really measures, accurately measures what it is supposed to measure. Okay, that is validity. Okay, so later on when we discuss quantitative research, especially in survey research, we'll be talking about pre-test. So pre-test is one of the method where we can address validity. Okay, now reliability is the extent to which the results can be reproduced when the research is repeated under the same conditions. That means you will get consistent findings. Okay, in survey research, especially when you are using questionnaire, there is a specific measurement for measuring reliability. One of them is called Cronbach alpha, and then we have also composite reliability. Okay, like in for validity also there is a specific measurement. Later on we will explore further. We have like convergent validity, discriminant validity. So these are the jargons, the specific terms which you have to start familiarizing yourself. Later on when we reach that data analysis part, we will explore hands-on, and from there you can slowly, gradually absorb and understand in full or fully the meaning of this validity and reliability. Now, generalizability is concerned to the extent to which the findings that you obtain from the sample can be applied to the population. Remember, when you collect data, you don't collect from every member in the population. You only engage sample. Through sampling, okay, only a portion of the population will be engaged or involved in the study. But through proper sampling, if you have enough sample, the findings can be applied. Even though, let's say, the population is 1,000, you will not collect from 1,000 member, okay, in the population. You will only probably need to take like 300 member, okay, sample. Okay, but the results that you analyze based on these 300 samples can be applied to the population. So this is called generalizability. So in quantitative research, this is one of the criteria we assess rigor. Now, the last one is called objectivity. Objectivity is that we draw conclusion based on the results that we obtain. Remember, I've been telling you from the first part of the lecture on definition, we have to collect data. Okay, we collect data from the field, we analyze the data. So the results we interpret, okay, that will lead to our conclusion. So when we draw our conclusion, we have to make sure that it is purely based on the data that we collect, okay, based on the results that we analyze from the data that we collect. All right, now how do we address rigor in qualitative research? Okay, sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, guys, this is supposed to be qualitative, okay, in the slide. Okay, please take note of that error. This is supposed to be qualitative research. Now, this rigor in qualitative research is also called trustworthiness. Okay, trustworthiness. We will address this again when we talk about qualitative data analysis. Okay, so there are 4 criteria in qualitative research for addressing or looking into rigor. One is called credibility, number 2, dependability, number 3, transferability, number 4 is confirmability. Okay, credibility means how confident we are about the truth that we obtain from the research findings. How confident you are. Okay, in statistics, we have degrees of freedom, confidence, right? 95%. So like in qualitative, we cannot quantify that confidence. Okay, but there must be a mechanism, a way, a technique, okay, or a measure that we look into, making sure that our findings is really credible. Okay, now dependability is the stability of findings over time and under different condition. How solid, how strong is the findings? Okay, so that means it is not being specific on certain time, but over time the findings to some extent is still applicable. Okay, all right. Transferability, this is almost equivalent to generalizability in quantitative research, but it is not exactly the same. Now, if you look at generalizability, you study a phenomenon, okay, on a particular population based on sample. So the findings you try to apply to the remaining member of the population. That is called generalizability. But in transferability means you study a certain phenomenon in a certain context, but the findings can be to some extent applied or transferred in a different context that is almost equivalent. Example, you study about, say, knowledge sharing behavior in the Faculty of Information Management. Okay, so the findings to some extent can be transferred to the Faculty of, say, Faculty of Business Management, because there are some similar characteristics between these two faculty. Okay, so that is called transferability. Okay, the last one for addressing rigor in qualitative research is called confirmability, which is defined as the degree to which the findings of the research study could be confirmed by other researcher. That means other researcher can evaluate, can review, can assess, okay, our research, our results, our methods, our techniques, and they can confirm, okay, they can confirm what we have done or what we had conducted is considered valid, okay, acceptable. All right, so this is the comparison, okay, between quantitative and qualitative research. Validity is almost equivalent to credibility. Reliability is equivalent to dependability. Generalizability is almost equivalent to transferability. Objectivity is almost equivalent to confirmability. All right. All right. So now we have reached to learning activity 2. So what do I expect you to do? Now, in my previous slide, I have mentioned in learning activity 1, you have to identify 2 research reports. So now, using the same research report, okay, I want you to read the articles, try to understand, and then try to read and try to identify whether the researcher, the author, have addressed rigor in the study. Okay, they have addressed rigor in the study. So try to search for words such as validity, reliability, confirmability, transferable transferable transferability, confirmability. All right, so try to search for these words in the research report. All right, so let's look at the next content that is on research relevance. Okay, now how do you make sure that the research that you are doing is really relevant? Okay, so the aspect to address relevance is based on these 4 questions. Okay, number 1, does the research really address the real problem that is currently faced by the professionals, okay, in the field? Like in your for example, if you are doing on knowledge management, is the problem really happen and being faced by knowledge professional? Okay, knowledge management professional. If you are doing research on information system, is the problem is really happening and information professional is now experiencing or facing this problem? So the problem must be real, the challenges, the issues that you are addressing must be real. Okay, so that is to make sure that what you are doing is really relevant. If it is not real, okay, hypothetical only, so it is of no use. In other words, we call it useless. Okay. Now, second aspect of relevance is that the research must contribute significantly to the body of knowledge by offering solution to the problem. The first one, make sure the problem is real. Okay, it's real, so that people have interest, okay, to your study. Second, your study, your research must really provide, if possible, complete solution, if not partial solution to the problem. Okay, partial solution. It has to have a solution. No point you conducting a study, but the study ended up not giving any solution. So you are wasting resources, money, energy, time. Okay, so you embark on the research, make sure the findings will end up giving, if possible, complete solution. If not, at least you can solve the problem. Okay, part of the problem. The third one, it has to be focusing on contemporary issues, current issues. It can be technological issues, it can be organizational issues, it can be economic issue. Like now, all of us are facing this pandemic, COVID-19. Okay, so in our context, so how do we find problem that can, the current problem, the pandemic problem in our field, how we can actually help to alleviate this problem, okay, from knowledge management perspective, information management perspective, or information system perspective. Okay, so how do we actually help to alleviate the problem? Like in the information system field, probably the development of My Sejahtera apps, can help control and keep trace and monitor the whereabouts of the rakyat, of the people, so that we can prevent them, from being inflicted or affected by this COVID-19. Okay, by those who have already been inflicted. Okay, the last one is that the research must be reported in the form of either a research article in a journal, or conference proceeding, or a research report which is accessible. uh, Accessible, that means the way you compose, the way you write the research also, you must make sure audience can really understand, okay, the content. Okay, so the way it is written, the tone it is written, the language used, okay, must be understandable by the audience. So no point you doing research and then you don't publish your research, you don't share your findings, so people will not get benefit. So relevance of research, okay, is being addressed by answering these 4 questions. Okay, now we have reached to learning activity 3. Okay, so still using the same research article or research report that you have collected. Okay, I want you to read and try to understand. And then do you think that the topic addressed by the researcher relevant based on the 4 questions that I have discussed earlier on? Okay, so why do you say so? Okay, please respond to this. We will discuss in our online meeting. Okay. All right, now the steps in research. Now, in our definition, we have mentioned that research involve activities. So these activities are actually series of activities, a lot of activities, a lot of tasks, a lot of work have to be done in this research. And these include like problem definition, setting the research objectives, okay, and then developing your research questions, developing theoretical framework if you are using or if you are doing quantitative research, developing hypothesis, and then you have to collect data, probably using research questionnaire, or you have to use interview, or probably observation, or sometimes you have to do experiment, you have to do simulation. And then once you have collected the data need to be analyzed using appropriate analysis technique. If you are doing quantitative, probably you need to use statistical techniques such as regression, ANOVA, or structural equation modeling. Or nowadays people are very inclined to use artificial neural network, ANN. And once you have analyzed the data, you have to interpret the findings, okay, the results. And then from the findings, you will draw conclusion, and then you will make conclusion to either, to address the problems that we have defined earlier on. Okay, so these are the general activities that a researcher may have to go through, in doing research. So this is a diagrammatical view on the steps can we that we can undertake in doing research. We cannot run away in doing literature review. Okay, I will talk about at length what is meant by literature review. So in the literature review, we have to look at existing theory in relation to the phenomenon. Okay, if you are studying certain phenomenon, you have to look at the literature and try to search for theory that can actually accommodate that particular phenomenon. So from that theory, we will extend the theory, adopt that theory, and try to understand the phenomenon from that perspective, or from the lens of that theory. And then we develop the research questions and research objectives. So this phase, three activities, is called exploration stage. Okay, then we will decide on the research method. Either we are going to use, say, survey, or we want to use case study, or we may want to do grounded theory, or we want to use experimental design or quasi-experimental design. So each and every method has its own research design. So if you are using survey, for example, in survey you have got certain design that you have to follow. Okay, so in the design, it will include sampling, population, okay, and how you can address the findings to achieve what we call in the method also, there is a step, or there is an activity where you have to operationally define the variables involved. That means the aspect of interest, the variables. Okay, then this is where you will develop the research proposal, and then you will start collecting the data, analyzing the data, and then interpret the results, and then you will develop the research report. Okay, now this is another way, taken from different source, how you can actually be involved in doing research. You identify the topic. Okay, same, you have to define the problem. We call it problem definition, or we call it problem statement. And then you will develop the research questions, or you develop the research objectives. Okay, and then you determine the appropriate research method. From the research method that you have decided or determined, you have to design the research, and then you have to start collecting the data. Of course, before you collect the data, you have to develop the instrument for collecting the data, analyze the data, and finally you interpret the results. And from the results, you will match the results with the research question, research objective, and see whether the problem will be completely solved or partly solved through the research. All right, we are done on the steps of research. Okay, now this is another content that we have to discuss, that is about ethics. Okay, ethics is very crucial when you do research. Okay, because if you don't address ethics, people can always manipulate research for their personal interest. Okay, some organizations, some companies also, sometimes they manipulate research because for their personal benefits, personal gains. So ethics, by definition, according to Webster dictionary, is conformance to the standard of conduct of a given profession or group. Okay, conformance to standard of conduct. Okay, that is definition of ethics. Now, one of the principles in ethics is voluntary participation. Okay, when you do research, okay, you should not force, you should not coerce, okay, participant or respondent, sometimes we call subjects, to participate in the research. You should make the participation voluntary. You should make the participation voluntary. It's up to the person, the individual. Either they want to participate or they do not want to participate. So there is no coercion. Okay, there is no threatening, okay, to make sure that the person involved in the research, and they should not be harmed. Okay, there's no way you should do that. Okay, you cannot harm them. Okay, if you harm them, in the form of, of course, in social science is not very apparent. In medicine, or in pharmacy, sometimes they create drugs, or vaccine. Some of the vaccine, when they are doing the testing, can harm, the subject, the people. Okay, instead of curing, or healing the person, the vaccine or the drug, okay, cause, or aggravate the disease, uh, 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 diseases, that the person is having. Okay, so this is the principle of research. That means making sure that the participation is voluntary, and uh, there's no way you should be threatening or causing any injury or any harm, any form of harm to the participant. The next one is anonymity and confidentiality. Anonymity means the researcher, okay, sometimes you have access to the person, who are the respondent, but this person should not be clearly mentioned in your research report. So no specific names, okay, should explicitly be mentioned in your research report. That is anonymity. Okay, confidentiality means you don't expose what is being mentioned by the person. Okay, so whatever responses that the person gave, okay, should not be exposed to the public. Okay. Okay, disclosure. So usually researchers have an obligation to provide some information about their study to potential subject before data collection, to help them decide whether they want to participate or not to participate in the study. Okay, you will brief them, okay, about the research, and from there make them decide themselves whether they want to continue to participate in the research, or they want to, they will not want to participate. Okay, and then when it comes to analysis also, you have to be truthful. When you analyze, try not to doctor or manipulate the data, okay, to suit you, okay, to favor you. Okay, you want the data, example, you have certain hypothesis, and then you want that hypothesis to be supported, so you will doctor the data so that your hypothesis will be supported. So this is not ethical. Okay, this is unethical. All right. Okay, having understood the ethical aspect and ethical requirement, okay, now I want you to read, okay, the same research article, and try to figure out whether the researcher had addressed ethical requirements, okay, in the two articles or in the two research report that you have collected. All right, now this is also something about ethics. Now, in any institution, academic institutions, they have set up what we call institutional review board. Okay, especially those who are pursuing a postgraduate degree, PhD or masters by research. Before they embark on data collection, they have to present into this institutional review board to make sure that their study, the process, the activity that they will follow or adopt, will comply to certain ethical requirements. So the review board will decide whether what you have designed is considered ethical or unethical. All right, now in information system, this is an example. Just now when we define ethics, we say conformance to standards. Okay, certain standards. It can be professional bodies, standards of professional bodies. I'm giving you an example by this Association of Information System. So in AIS, it has developed, okay, a code of conduct for doing research, and it has divided into two categories. The first category includes transgressions, such as not respecting the rights of research subject, misrepresenting the originality of the research project, a lot of biasness, using data published by others without acknowledging them, you don't cite. Okay, these are what you call category 2, which is less serious. Category 1 is very serious offense, which include plagiarism, falsification of data, you know uh, you don't actually collect data, but data you create by yourself. So this is category 1, which is considered very serious offense. Okay, so as a member of this association, like myself, I am a member of this association of information system. So I must try my level best to comply to this code of conduct when doing research, reporting research, in the form of journal article or in the form of conference proceeding. Okay, now knowledge management. Okay, the nature of research in knowledge management. Let's look at the definition of knowledge management. Of course, there are many definitions, but I have purposely taken this definition. So knowledge management is a discipline that promotes an integrated approach to identifying, capturing, evaluating, retrieving, and sharing all of an enterprise information asset. These assets may include databases, documents, policies, procedures, previously unknown captured expertise and experience in individual workers. The knowledge, tacit knowledge, explicit knowledge, all this comes under the umbrella or the gamut of knowledge management. Okay, so this is a diagrammatic view about knowledge management. So in knowledge management, of course, there are many other models of knowledge management. Okay, so many models. I purposely took this model so that we can easily look into one and discuss instead of having so many models. Okay, we will end up not having any scope. So you can see in this model, when we talk about knowledge management, it involves human resource management. Okay, it involves information management, it involves ICT, okay, like portals, okay, databases, content management, and then it involves organizational learning, okay, standard operating procedure, continuous training. Okay, so all these will be under the gamut or the scope of knowledge management. So when you want to do research on knowledge management, you can focus on probably on behavior of knowledge workers, knowledge management professional, knowledge workers. Who are knowledge workers? All of you have learned knowledge management. You know what is the definition of knowledge workers. People involved in IT, like software developer, they are knowledge workers. Okay, engineers, they are also knowledge workers. Academicians, they are also knowledge workers. Okay, so you can study their behavior. You can study individual knowledge worker, you can study their behavior, you can study object. Okay, you can study the interaction of human user towards certain object, but this object must be related to KM. Example like content management system, knowledge management system, knowledge portal. All right, so you can also look into the organization. For example, you can study learning organization, okay, standard operating procedure in the organization. You can study training and education in relation to KM. Okay, you can study records management, also related to knowledge management. Okay, so of course there are many other models, as I've said, but this is actually the boundary, the scope where you can focus on when you want to study knowledge management. Okay, now of course there are always problems. How are we going to decide what type, and how are we going to end up having a research topic for doing research for this academic requirement? Okay, now the easiest way to understand is to look into what we call unit of analysis. So unit of analysis, by definition, it refers to people, collective, a group of people, okay, or it can refer to object. Okay, collective group of people can be organization, can be team, okay, can be department, or you can study object like knowledge portal, knowledge management system, okay, which is actually the target of the investigation. So that is what we call unit of analysis. So when you want to think of a topic, the first thing that you think, okay, what will be my unit of analysis? What am I going to study? Am I going to study object like knowledge portal? Am I going to study individual, knowledge worker? Am I going to study organization, learning organization? Okay, am I going to study team, IT project team, for example? Okay, so examples of typical unit of analysis include individuals, group, organization. You can also study country. You want to compare between Malaysia, Indonesia, or South Southeast Asian region, okay, technologies like portal, knowledge management system, content management systems, all right, or even object, okay, object, and so on and so forth. Right, so let's look at this table. Okay, this table I have purposely developed to show to you how this unit of analysis relate to participant, okay, or we call it informant of the research and the topic. Okay, so look at this table. Unit of analysis, individual. So who do you want to study? Knowledge worker. So what is the topic? Knowledge creation abilities. You know, have you heard about that SACHI model or CSI model by Nonaka Takeuchi? Okay, socialization, externalization, combination, internalization. That four quadrant, you know, that is knowledge creation abilities. Innovative work behavior. Okay, so you have research questions. Of course, here I don't show the problem statement. This research questions is derived from the problem statement. Later on, I will show you and we discuss about the um, proposal, research proposal. So here you can see 4 research questions. How do software developer rate their knowledge creation abilities? Okay, descriptive study. Okay, we want to describe, okay, how do software developer rate their knowledge creation abilities? Okay, how do software developer here means knowledge worker, rate their innovative work behavior? So we want to describe the nature, the phenomenon of innovative work behavior among software developer. And the third one is explanatory study. Okay, how do knowledge creation abilities influence innovative work behavior? This is on relationship. We want to see whether there is a relationship or not between knowledge creation abilities and innovative work behavior. All right, that's one example, okay, of a research topic in KM. Okay, another example, the unit of analysis is group. So you want to study IT project development team. So what will be the topic? The topic will be knowledge sharing, knowledge creation. So example of research questions that can be focused on: how do members of IT project development experience seeking help for any issues or problems they face? You know, as a member of IT project team, normally we face problems. So how do we solve that problems? How do we seek help? Okay, how do you find for assistance? So how do they experience that process of seeking help, sorry. Okay, so that is the first research question. This is exploratory study, qualitative research. Number 2, what does knowledge sharing mean to members of an IT project development? That is exploratory study. Okay. Okay, the third example, organization. Okay, the unit of analysis of organization. Who will be the informer, respondent, or participant? The CIO, CEO of a company. So what is the topic? Knowledge portal, firm performance. Okay, so the research questions: how do companies rate their portal performance? Number 2, how do companies rate their firm performance? Okay, firm performance. Okay, is there any significant relationship between knowledge portal effectiveness and also firm performance? So two aspect. One is portal performance and the other one is firm performance. Okay, this is explanatory research. Of course, quantitative. The last example, the unit of analysis is object. Who is the informer? Nobody, because we are studying object. So topic, accessibility, usability. So instead of asking people, you are going to use certain tool. Like in this example, we are going to use a checker tool. So this a checker tool you use to analyze accessibility. So you open this website air checker, you put the address, you run, and then you can see the results. Okay, and GT matrix tools is a tool to measure usability. So you want to know accessibility and also usability of academic libraries knowledge portal. All right, so here the unit of analysis is object. Okay, so nobody will be involved. Okay, it will involve the knowledge portal only. Okay, now this is the learning activity 5. Okay, using the same research report in learning activity 1, the 2 research report that you have already identified. Okay, I want you to create a table like I have just discussed. You know, you have that component, unit of analysis, the informant, the topic, and the research questions. Okay, try to read the article and extract if you can see if this information are available or not, and try to present them in the form of this table. If the information is not available, then you can sort of develop yourself based on that research article. Try to come up with your own output, but based on that two research article. All right. So this is the element of the thesis and research proposal. Now, for any given thesis, dissertation, master's dissertation or thesis, basically you have got 5 chapters. Chapter 1, introduction. Chapter 2, literature review. Chapter 3, research methodology. Chapter 4, results of findings. Chapter 5, discussion, recommendation and conclusion. So these are 5 chapters. Now, for a research proposal, normally it will contain the following contents. The first one is the chapter 1, introduction, literature review, research methodology. Of course, these 3 content in the form of research proposal will not be very extensive or comprehensive compared to the final report. Okay, this will be the proposal only. So the essence of that, the elaborated version, the complete version will appear in the final report, but you still have to prepare according to this template. That means you have the introduction, you have the literature review, and you have the research methodology. Okay, now let's look at the chapter 1. So in this session, I will only discuss on chapter 1, because for chapter 2, research methodology, there will be a separate chapter, and for research method, you have got several chapters to discuss. Okay, but you have to understand, in a research proposal, you have to have that literature review section as well as the research methodology section. Now, for the chapter 1, in your research proposal as well, in your final research report, you should have the introduction, problem statement, research questions and research objective, definition of terms, scope of research, and finally, significance of the research. Okay, now, the problem statement. Okay, the introduction will be the introduction to the chapter, overview of the chapter, bird's eye view of the chapter. But the problem statement, this is crucial. So, problem statement is actually the discussion of the problem that trigger the need to conduct the research. Okay, basically you will highlight the problem that warrants research. So the essence of that problem statement later on, you can simplify it into what we call research questions. So in the discussion of the problem statement, you will highlight issues, symptoms or real problem. Okay, issues, topics that are viewed differently, okay, by different people. Example, we talk about vaccination. Some people, okay, vaccination is good. Some other people say is bad. So you want to add on into the literature, and you want to verify through research whether it is really good or not. So you highlight this problem, in your problem statement. So your research will later provide some answers whether it is good or it is bad. Okay, and then in the context of knowledge management, in an organization we have got knowledge workers. Some workers are willing to share knowledge, other workers they just keep knowledge to themselves. So what do organization do? They give reward to knowledge worker who are willing to share knowledge. So the issue here is rewarding worker. Is it advisable, or is it good to practice that way? Because some people argue that, well, you are a staff or an employee to that organization, you must follow the requirement, the policy of the organization. If you are required to share knowledge, then you have to share knowledge. After all, you are being paid monthly in the form of your monthly salary. Okay, so there is an issue about that. So what about symptoms? Symptoms is an indication that problem exists. Okay, for example, in an organization, you develop a knowledge portal. People are not using the portal. The features, the functions in the portal are not being utilized by the user. This is an indication that there is some issue with the portal. Why users do not want to use? Why users are abstaining themselves from using the knowledge portal? Or probably users are not very happy with the interface of the knowledge portal. Okay, so problem is a real situation that is considered unwelcoming. People unwelcome is very harmful. Okay, wrong, needing to be overcome. That means you have to solve the problem. So example, faulty output by the knowledge portal. You execute certain function, you get erroneous output from the knowledge portal. Systems embedded in the knowledge portal did not produce accurate output. So that means there's a problem in the algorithm of the information system. Okay, or you develop the portal, you implement the portal, people find it very difficult to use the system, and then they took a long time to master, to fully understand, familiarize themselves with the interface. So this is a problem also. All right, so from the problem statement, you will condense the discussion of your problem statement, and then you will compose what we call research questions. So when you write research questions, make sure the research question is very clear, crystal clear. It has to be very focused and narrow to a specific aspect of the study, and then it has to be concise, okay, complex, okay. So try not to develop research questions where you can just say yes or no, okay. So that is not a good research questions, and research questions can be sort of arguable. That means you are open to different possible solution, okay, to answer the research questions. Okay, let's look at this table. Okay, now here in this table I've shown you one main problem. The problem here is that software do not demonstrate ability to, software developer, I made a mistake there. Software developer do not demonstrate ability to reinvent, improvise work. They lack of knowledge creation abilities and innovative work behavior. So this is the real problem. And whenever they are being assigned to develop IT systems, okay, the project cannot be delivered on time, they cannot be completed on time, or some of the user requirements are not being fulfilled in the IT project, and you need to spend more. That means over budget. So this is the problem, okay, faced by certain organization. And then when you go and look in the literature, you cannot find ample evidence on literature, okay, about knowledge creation abilities as well as innovative work behavior on software developer. So from the main problem, of course, you have to elaborate, you have to discuss further, so you can later on summarize or condense it in the form of research questions. Actually, I've shown you these research questions. How do software developer rate their knowledge creation abilities? Okay, the sub problem here is that we cannot have any or enough evidence in the literature about knowledge creation abilities among software developer. So we want to find out, okay, then we create the research questions. Same goes to the next one, okay, limited evidence in the literature about innovative work behavior. So we want to know, we want to describe this phenomenon. So we develop this second research questions, okay, how do software developer rate their innovative work behavior? And the last one, there is inconclusive or mixed results, okay, of several studies. Probably you can find several studies, okay. In these studies you see mixed results. Some say positive, some say negative, some say no relationship. So you want to find out in the context of software developer, in the context where you study, is it positive relationship or no relationship or negative relationship? So you want to again reconfirm this phenomenon, so you embark on explanatory study. Okay, how do knowledge creation abilities influence innovative work behavior of software developers? So you can see from this table your problem statement. Of course, in your actual study later, you don't write as brief as this, okay. It has to be quite lengthy, the discussion. I just give you the main point. So the problem statement, okay, later on need to be condensed into what we call research questions. Let's look at this second example, okay. You have problems, okay, with the existing knowledge portal of Malaysian academic libraries, okay. Users with disabilities, students with disability, okay, sight ability, disability, okay, hearing disability, probably they cannot get equal chance in accessing resources from the library portal, okay. And then another issue is that when you use a certain type of IT, you cannot access. Probably that particular portal can be accessed using, let's say, a Chrome web browser only. If you want to start accessing using Safari, using your iPhone, you cannot access. Okay, that's another issue. And then when it comes to interacting, okay, with the library portal, user can easily lost, when they click, it leads, when you click on certain hyperlink, it leads to another page. You click to another page, and then when to return to the home page, you cannot easily go back, because you easily get lost in the design of the interface. Or when it comes to, when system is already being completed, you provide training, but when you train the user find it very difficult. They take a lot of time to really fully understand or familiarize themselves with the function and the features of the library portal. So here you can summarize the problem into two research questions, which I've already discussed in my earlier slides. How accessible is the knowledge portal, the first one, and how usable is the knowledge portal. All right, so that is research questions. Now, once you have developed your research questions, you can paraphrase the research questions to become your research objective. So when you write research objective, you write starting with the word to, and you use appropriate action verb such as measure, evaluate, compare. Of course, it has to be paired with the word to measure, to evaluate, to compare, to examine, to identify. Okay, you can easily paraphrase that research question. So research objectives, sorry, this one is supposed to be RO, not RQ. I made a mistake there. It has to follow that smart characteristic: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. Example, you are doing master's project, you have to complete in 6 months time. Okay, make sure the scope, the objective, okay, is being written in a way that it can be achievable in 6 months time. All right, so this is an example how I paraphrase, I reword the research questions to become research objective. Just look at the first example. How do software developer rate their knowledge creation abilities? Okay, that one you can convert or transform into the first one, research question, you can convert into research objective to measure the knowledge creation abilities of software developer. The rest you can read up by yourself. Okay, so it is easy. You can just reword, paraphrase the research questions. Okay, now the next aspect of your research proposal is the definition of terms. Now, in a research report, there are two parts where you have to provide definition. The first one in chapter 1, which is called definition of terms appearing in the title. Another part is in your research method. Normally you define the variables operationally. So don't be confused between definition of terms for chapter 1 and operational definition for variables in the framework in chapter 3, research method. So before that, you have to understand what is the good advice to compose a research topic. Okay, I have a video on that. You can check on my YouTube site. Okay, in order to write a research title, the best way is to have these three elements. The first one, the topic. Number 2, method. Number 3, the setting. So an example here, knowledge conversion abilities and innovative work behavior. Okay, a survey among software developer of Malaysian multimedia status company. So from this title, the topic is knowledge conversion abilities and innovative work behavior. Okay, and that is the topic. The method will be a survey. Okay, the setting, software developer of Malaysian multimedia status company. Accessibility, usability of library portal. That is the topic. Okay, the setting, Malaysian universities. Okay, and then the method, evaluative study. All right, so that's how you should be defining that's how you should be writing your title. So from the title, try to extract the critical words that that can make ordinary people, laymen, okay, not to understand the topic. So you have to define that. So like in this example, I have split into 4 parts. The first one, knowledge conversion ability. So that one you have to define. Here I've given the definition. Okay, the ability of an employee to convert tacit knowledge to tacit knowledge, so on and so forth. Okay, the second term, innovative work behavior. Okay, I have to define that one. Okay, survey, do you have to define? No need. That one is well understood. Even by ordinary reader, ordinary audience can easily understand the term survey. Multimedia status company. Okay, that one you have software developer. Yes, you have to define software developer. And the last one, multimedia status companies. That one also you have to define. All right, you can see the definition there. Okay, like this example, I've split into 4 parts. You have to define accessibility, you have to define usability, you have to define the library portal, you have to define Malaysian University, and then to define evaluative assessment. Okay, now this is the next activity. So using the same research report in learning activity 1, okay, do you think the title is appropriate? How suggest how you can improve the title. Okay. Okay, now scope of research. Now scope of research is actually the coverage of the study. So this coverage can be looked in terms of the variables that will be involved. You know, when you do research, you will develop theoretical framework, conceptual framework. You will have variables inside the frameworks. Okay, when you do your literature review, sometimes you discover many variables, but you will not list or include all those variables. You will only take part of the variable. So those variables that you include, okay, that is considered within the scope. Those variables that you exclude, that means that is beyond the scope of the study. Now, you can also define the scope in terms of respondent. Example, if you study in an organization, you only want to engage executive level. So non-executive level, you will exclude in the study. Okay, then scope can be also in terms of time horizon, especially when you collect data. So you can argue that the data that you have collected is between this date to that date. So that means the findings is applicable within these findings is actually representing the phenomenon on this particular time horizon. Okay, other than that will not be included. Okay, now significance of the study. Now, the essence of significance of study is that, okay, what will happen to the problem that you discuss if no action taken? In other words, if you don't do any research, what will happen to the existing problem? Of course, the problem will aggravate, yeah, right? They continue to happen. Example, if you invest in a library portal, okay, of course, investing in a library portal is not cheap, it's very expensive. But if users do not use the library portal, so it's a waste of money. So you can argue that if there is no research being done, the university will be keep on spending, a lot of money, for the investment is considered a waste, because not many people are using the library portal. So you can highlight the contribution from the following perspective. One is called theoretical perspective, number 2 practical perspective, and the third one's methodological perspective. Okay, theoretical perspective means whether the study will develop new theory, or it will validate existing theory, or it will enhance existing theory, okay, model, or even framework. Okay, that is a theoretical perspective. From the practical perspective, that means how the current study, the findings of current study will help to improve current practice. That means it will enhance the standard operating procedure. The processes, the activity will be improved so that it will become more efficient, more effective. And the significant study also can be viewed if you have developed new method. Okay, normally this is when you are doing PhD. Okay, very rare, but it's still possible. It will develop new method, new formula, for example. All right. So that's the end of our chapter 1, introduction to research, overview of research. Okay, thank you so much for your attention listening to this video lecture. Okay, there are 6 learning activity that I've presented in my lecture. Please spare your time and try to engage in that activity and share your results, your findings, your responses in our online meeting later. Okay, thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye bye.